Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars franchise seems to be quite expansive, not just with their books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about their new live-action and animated Star Wars TV series on Disney+, as well as their new Star Wars trilogy of films, also known as their fourth Star Wars trilogy. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the one thing about Disney Star Wars is that, yes, we do know that they are currently in a phase of desperation and damage control to really get the job done here and to really bring Star Wars back to the way it used to be back before 2012, which was well before Disney bought Lucasfilm, right? Well before George Lucas handed over the keys to Kathleen Kennedy. Now, we're now in a position where we got Chaypek and Iger really making all of these major decisions for Star Wars to really give fans something true to look forward to. After all, their main focus is to really deliver as much authentic material as possible, whether it be falling into the line of what George Lucas originally wanted to do with TV shows, and also original concepts taken directly from those deleted scenes of other movies that we have already seen, and kind of expanding that into the form of television and movies themselves. Now, that's exactly what Lucas, Favreau, and Filoni are really banking on. They're also really banking on delivering tons of Star Wars Legends material to make its way into the Disney canon. Looking forward to that as well, because let's face it, you know, Star Wars Legends was very powerful and very strong. A lot of fans loved it, and it really does have a great story because George Lucas really approved many of those segments back in the 1990s and the early 2000s. Now, with that being said, of course, what's really intriguing all has to do with Star Wars television and Disney CEO Bob Chapek. Now, with Bob Iger and Bob Chapek now hard at work on developing their new Star Wars universe, they are also focused on developing strategies into reuniting the Star Wars fandom around the entire world in order to create a better and brighter future for the Star Wars fandom. Now, it's noted, however, that behind the scenes, many changes have been made over at Lucasfilm in order to go for that goal in mind by the Disney CEOs. It's explained that currently Chapek is canceling tons of Star Wars TV shows for Disney Plus that are best described as the High Republic TV shows for Disney Plus, where it's described that these were all TV shows initiated by Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy before she lost her creative control over at Lucasfilm, and that Chapek now just finished the final stages of canceling those High Republic TV series for Disney Plus that were going to push so many different agendas while also promoting activism in the TV shows. So in case you guys did not know, there were initially supposed to be a ton of High Republic TV shows in different eras, or different timelines, if you will, within this massive new mythology that's going to take place 200 years before the Phantom Menace. So they wanted the High Republic to go throughout the ages. They want to explain, you know, specific characters, you know, 100 years before the Phantom Menace, some characters 150 years before. Basically, they want to go all over the 200-year gap in between whatever era comes before the High Republic and, of course, the prequels that come after it. And that's exactly what they're going to be exploring in, of course, the new comics, the books, you name it. Now, what's really intriguing, of course, beyond all of this is that not just that, alright, but the series was going to undo all of George Lucas's work with the philosophy of Star Wars and what it really means to the Star Wars fans. Kennedy was indeed on a mission to essentially undo the George Lucas, you know, focus of Star Wars and what he created for fans. Kennedy was actually all for that and wanted to start from scratch to create new fans. Bob Chapek, of course, was not feeling this and was 100% against this idea, where also it's described that Bob Chapek recently was able to cancel these shows by discussing this with George Lucas on exactly how to reform the High Republic for television. Now, George Lucas is said to be working very hard on reworking what Kathleen Kennedy started with the High Republic era of Star Wars in order to bring things in the right direction for the fans. The series was going to focus away from wars and would also use as little lightsaber combat as possible. So once again here, I mean, it seems like that Kathleen Kennedy is really against what the fans really enjoy. What the fans really love and enjoy at the end of the day, the Force lore, the Jedi lore, lightsaber combat, and actual wars, mind you. This series was actually going to focus away from having any kind of conflict between two groups, such as the Jedi and Dark Warriors. They were going to focus away from that and focus on something else, which we're going to get into in just a second, which I think a lot of people are going to be very divided over. Now, Kennedy, wanted to actually dive more into the High Republic, and of course, wanted to focus more on an era that would not include wars, but rather natural tragedies or disasters that the Jedi would face such an apocalyptic take on Star Wars for the Jedi to deal with. Essentially, Kennedy was aiming for a disaster series, and though George Lucas is up for that idea, it was not meant to be for a TV series, and more so in line for a movie, and would actually stretch beyond one season, and that this would have gotten old very fast for the fans. Now, Lucas is said to be in negotiations with chaypek on whether or not, besides the reformed High Republic TV show, should also stretch out to movies also instead as well. Chaypek and Iger, as well as George Lucas, both agree that Kennedy's version of the High Republic would have been catastrophic to the Disney Plus platform with gaining interest for Star Wars, and that this is another main reason as to why Kennedy was let go from her creative power over at Lucasfilm, and is only left with one TV series, which is the Leslie Headland Star Wars TV show. Not just that, but also Lucas is said to already be in the creative process of having designers redesign the characters associated with the High Republic era. Just recently, the new Yoda design was done by George Lucas and initiated by Lucas to fix Yoda's design apart from what Kennedy was demanding, and that Lucas plans to bring back Yoda in live-action form on Disney Plus in his younger years. So in case you guys did not know this, this is basically Lucas's choice here. It's his opportunity to bring Yoda back into the mix, either on the big screen or at home on Disney Plus, kind of playing with the High Republic era. So you guys may have seen this on the official StarWars.com website just the other day. They unveiled the new Yoda design. That was all actually done because of what George Lucas initiated. That was mainly done of what George Lucas was aiming for. You know, initially Yoda was going to have a different design by Kathleen Kennedy, and now George Lucas is really tapping into something else for the fans to witness. So when we think about it this way, the High Republic era, a very complex mythology, is going to dive into, multiple years throughout the ages in the form of television. That's going to be George's take on things by reforming the High Republic to really use character development to the max and to really focus a little bit more on Yoda's life well before the events of the Phantom Menace. It's going to be a very interesting process to see exactly, what the fans are going to think about this, right? Because when you think about it in this sense, a lot of fans are still very much skeptical about what George, John, and Dave have to offer in the near future. I mean, there's no doubt about it that a lot of fans are still very worried on whether or not Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are going to be able to deliver when it comes to Star Wars TV shows or Star Wars movies at that. And generally speaking, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy's version of the High Republic did not sound all that great. I mean, exploring natural disasters and tragedies and stuff around those lines that the Jedi would face, I really can't imagine that in the form of television. If anything, that could be more in line with the movie, but I always feel that that doesn't really mean it's Star Wars at the end of the day. I feel that they really should always keep things in line with wars, hence Star Wars. It's in the title itself, right? And it really wouldn't make much sense to really dive more into a disaster film strictly. If they wanted to include a disaster, that's fine, but you gotta have wars in there. It's kind of like with Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, right? You have this big disaster, on Jeddah because of the Death Star test, and that in itself was a disaster. But it's also somewhat of a war in a sense, right? So you gotta kind of keep things in line with that. I think that only focusing on natural disasters, I don't know, guys, if it really would have worked. I don't know about that. That's just my take on things. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, I think that we really are on the road to a better path here. Let me know what you think about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
to moon, we hear them once again.